Hi everyone, welcome to TBS. This is Sadie once again. Sorry I haven't been around very much, but I've been really busy with my new booth at the Julietta Market in Lexington. Today I want us to talk about Chris Cornell. Number one, he's one of the most beloved, he's in the top 5 grunge artists of all time. And many ladies are obsessed with him, obviously, and he's gone, but still people care. And I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about what I think could have been going on, but I want to, use the cards and see what they say about all this. I'll tell you the story of what happened as far as his death is concerned, as much as I could get out of it, as much information as I could get. And it was very hard to hear because it's really sad. You don't want anyone to die prematurely, especially someone who's famous, who gives to the world, and who is loved by many. So this is my spread right here, but I'm just going to talk first about what happened. So anyway, Chris was born in 1964, I think, and he's a very, he's like Jewish Catholic person. His family broke up when he was 12. He didn't like his dad anymore, and neither did the rest of his family because he left them, so they changed their name from whatever the last name was of the dad to Cornell, which was the mom's maiden name. And that was when he was 12. From that point on, he started to experiment with drugs and music. He needed something to help him with anxiety and social problems. He had friends, but he just had a lot of depression and anxiety. He was very attractive, and so when he went to high school, he just got more popular and helped with the anxiety, but he was still a music person primarily, and he met a bunch of other musicians there. And they all started hanging out and doing stuff, and that's how the grunge movement started. Soundgarden, his band, was the first ones to get picked up by the radio, besides Candle something. I forget their name. I really liked them. And of course, he did a tribute album called Temple of the Dog. Well, the band was called that, with Eddie Vedder and some others, because their friend had died. Candlebox? Yeah, Candlebox, perhaps. Okay, anyway. So Chris got famous and got married to an agent that he met in the business. And that lasted for quite a while, I think like 15 years. And then he got divorced and immediately married another girl named Vicky. And they had 2 children, so he has 3 children, I think, 3 or 4 children. And Vicky is the one who he was with at the time of his death. They never got divorced, and I forget, they probably have been 20 years together by this point. They did a lot of charity together, and I do not know if she had a regular job or not. He took anxiety medicine. Off and on, he took depression medicine, but that was something that it was kind of well known, I guess. He didn't care if people knew about it, but he toured a lot. He went through different phases. He went through an alcoholic phase. He went through a drug phase, but Vicky was there helping him to be sober, and he was very grateful. She looks like she has maybe some kind of Western Asian look to her, but I don't know what her nationality is, but she sounds American when she speaks. So anyway, what happened was he did a concert in Detroit with Soundgarden. It was like not a reunion, but they were just getting back together again. They had already had a reunion, and they were touring on. He had done Audio Slave, and that was over. And now Soundgarden was back again. And so this was something in Detroit, a concert in Detroit. He was very weird on stage, everyone said. He was slurring his words. He forgot words. He stumbled around. And someone mentioned to someone, no one knows if it's true or not, that he was hit in the head with something during rehearsal. And that from then on, he had acted very strangely. Another person said that he thought he looked like he was on drugs or drunk, and that he didn't know if Chris hit his head or not. But it was really odd that he was doing these things. So after the concert, he went back to his room, and from then on, we don't know what happened to him in his words. We just have the bodyguard's testament about what happened, and a little bit of the wife's testament. So the bodyguard, or the wife, had tried to talk to him after the concert, and she did. They talked about something about TV, and when they hung up, it wasn't much longer after that she called back again to ask something else. This is her story. And she didn't get an answer, and she called and didn't get an answer, and she was scared. So she told the bodyguard to get up there and figure out what was going on, and if he had to, break the door down if it was locked, because she's very scared. This is what she's telling the police and etc. So the bodyguard goes up there. Sure enough, Chris doesn't answer, and the door is locked. So he busts it open with either his bulk or his foot. I do not know, but he must have been very strong. And so he went over to the bed, and he didn't see him in there. He called around, and he saw feet hanging out of the bathroom onto the carpet of the bedroom. So he went over there and saw that Chris was laying on the ground. He had blood in his mouth, coming out of his mouth. And around his neck, he had a exercise tube, a resistance tube. And it's unknown if it was laying on the ground all the way, or if some of it was on the door and some was on his neck, because the bodyguard changed his mind 3 times or he said 3 different things about where the cord was. So we don't actually know the answer to that. But we do know that there was a mark around his neck, so he definitely died from asphyxiation. And so there's that. And they tried to resuscitate him. The bodyguard said he did, and then also the people that came to help, the paramedics, etc. But he was already dead by the time that they came, and so he was pronounced like about an hour after that. He weighed like 180 or less, and he was 6'3", so he was a very thin person. And he ate correctly, and he took his medicine he was supposed to, but he liked to work out when he was on the road, because that's just how it is with people. If they have a strenuous job, they have to keep working out so they don't get behind. So anyway, let's see here what happens now. Okay. The police asked they do the crime scene. They process it. And they do not find Chris's phone anywhere. And they don't find some other things that should have been there, like his underwear and his socks were not there either. Just so weird. So anyway, maybe he didn't use underwear or socks, but it seemed a bit weird, And so it was pronounced to everybody the next morning that he had killed himself and strangled himself, hung himself in his bathroom because he was depressed. And Vicky, when asked if he was depressed, changed her story a few times about if he was or not, and if he had anxiety or not, and if he was addicted or not. And she did say, and she kept this story consistent, that the last year, so 2016, because he died in 2017, I think August maybe. Anyway, she said that he had a bout with drinking again, but got it under control. So that was what she told, and no one else was interviewed. His family was not interviewed, just Vicky. And no one in the hotel was interviewed except for the people that they needed to see the what's it called? The video recording of the hallway in front of his, like the CCTV footage, in other words. And all that was, no one went into his room except for him and the bodyguard. So they could see that, and no one could have got in from the window. This was at the Detroit Grand, and it was really tall. There was no way that anyone could come in through the roof or anything like that. So, in other words, we have a body and someone who had already planned the rest of a tour, who may or may not have got hit on the head, and who may or may not have been put out of the way for some reason, etc. So if you look at the pictures, they're online, the color pictures of the crime scene, you can see that there is a paint wedge and some powder on the tube. Now, that isn't how you use the tube, the resistance tube. You don't put it over the door so it stretches over the door and then you secure it to something on the other side. It actually comes with this ball of sand that you put through, you set on top of the door, and then you shut it. And so no part of the rubber or elastic material actually ever gets on the top of the door. So the fact that there was a bunch of paint stuck into the tube suggests that someone was on the other side holding the tube as tight as possible while Chris was on the other side struggling to get away. He's 6'3". Now the bodyguard is 6'5", but he also hardly weighed anything compared to the bodyguard. And you kind of have to think, well, did the bodyguard kill him to be with the wife, or was the wife in on it? He also had just started doing some sex trafficking help to save kids, and a few people in Hollywood were getting mad at him because they thought he was being too aggressive about it and hurting people's feelings, but he just wanted to fix the problem, And there's a pedo ring, apparently, of very famous guys in Hollywood that people have been talking about, and maybe he found out about that or something. So let's find out what happened to him. So here we have judgment. So that means either he or someone else pronounced judgment on his life and decided it was time for it to end. And this is saying here that he represented money to somebody. 4 of Cups, and they were apathetic to his demise. When you watch Vicky and the bodyguard, they're not crying, and they were interviewed right after it happened. So that might mean something. And this says generations of money, so it means passing on down. So this could suggest that Vicky wanted money, and that's why she wanted him out of the way, because he was going to spend it all on things that just help other people, and she just wanted the money and didn't want to deal with that and thought he was going overboard. Here's the Lovers, so that has to do with them. Childhood, have to do with the children. Yeah, okay, wow, okay. So she was satisfied with their life and the position that she had become. She did not want it to change. And she had hope for the future for herself. This is saying marriage. So either she was looking forward to a different marriage, or now I don't know if she has married again. I couldn't find that out. But as far as anyone knows, the bodyguard disappeared as soon as he was interviewed. No one has heard of him in Hollywood since then. Forgot to say that. So this is a celebration. She could have been celebrating that he was gone. It could also mean she was celebrating all these good things about him and didn't want him to die, but maybe this is showing what he thought he meant to them is money and taking care of them. Maybe he thought that they didn't love him enough. Let's find out, but that's a lot of information right there. This is the King of Swords. No, the Queen of Swords. So I would say they both tell the truth a lot to each other because he's obsessed with truth. In a way, it's like he's a seeker, and she seems like she would just say whatever was on her mind and tell it like it is. If you watch the interviews, I think there's 2 interviews. But the queen also cuts off what she doesn't need anymore. She leaves it behind. This says Fool, starting over on a new journey. Partners. She had been working on this for a very long time to get the money, and that she had to make a decision. Perhaps he had done something and this was justice to her. Perhaps he had cheated on her. They both had been hiding from each other and not really been as close as usual. Okay, and this says love, the Queen of Love. So this actually could go many different ways, and this is really interesting. So let's continue on. Okay, this is saying he was resting. And he was trudging on, doing his duty to get money for them, because that's what he thought was important. He sought help from spiritual things, but he also wanted to help his family be spiritual. And he had been making a plan for that to happen. But chaos came instead. It could have happened before he died, or it could be the act of him dying. And then this is saying the Page of Wands is the passionate son. So, I mean, I guess his son was becoming more and more like him, and maybe he was proud of that. But he also could have been depressed about that and hated it because he could have hated himself. 7 Swords and 8 Cups. Okay, this is walking away. And this is lying. Happy families. completion. Wow, this is a really odd reading because it really has two different aspects. Maybe the two things both happened, but only one way could he have died. So we need more information. Please help us get information. Okay, this is the Ace of Swords, truth, and the Passionate Queen. Could be her or someone else. The Moon is intuition and secrets. And here's the lying again. So one of them cheated on the other one, and it really caused some problems. I really think this is what's happening. There was a lot of passion involved in this. She could have paid the bodyguard all she had to kill him. If it was revenge, who knows? These Two of Swords are saying no matter what decision was made, it was made blind out of passion and stupidity of the time. And this is saying that they were bereft of their senses. They were not smart enough during this phase to make the right decisions because they were too emotional and drained. Okay. He felt like he had to defend himself. And she thought perhaps his willpower was too strong. And the emperor, he wanted to be the emperor of the family. Maybe she didn't take that well. This is really confusing, guys. We have so much information, and it's all true, but I can't get any ideas of what's going on all the way, you know? Because this means Queen of Swords is truth. Truth queen, harsh queen, intelligent queen, queen of air and winter. And this is apathetic, resting, being immature type thing. So is that her or him? There's that 3 wands going forward and resting. Oh no, saving money for the world. Yeah. Okay. I think I can safely say that this is her wanting the money, and he was going to spend it on stuff she didn't want him to spend it on. Because if he hated himself, this is me just using logic here because I have to like cut through these cards and figure out what the answer is. And I don't have the real answer all the way written out like usual. So I'm trying to do this. It could be like someone scried and knows I'm doing this, or something is trying to ruin it. But anyway, so what I'm pretty sure is what's going on and what had happened to him was that he was getting more and more obsessed with charity. And he seems like a guy who he becomes obsessed with something, he doesn't just like it. So it meant that he would put a lot of his money into this, a lot of his time. And he would want his children involved also, and his wife. And if she didn't like it, and she wanted the kids to hang back from it, it would hurt him very badly because he would see it like men do, that it's someone rejecting him because it's his work. But it's actually not. Women don't think like that. It wouldn't have been like that. But he probably was talking about how these kids needed money more than they did. And so having an inheritance for his children wasn't as important as saving these poor lost kids who are getting sexually attacked. And even if she agreed with him, when the rubber meets the road, people don't want to lose money. Obviously, they want to keep it, unless they believe also in charity. And she may have just got sick of it, or she may never have believed. So this is her coming to a crossroads and wondering, if I want the world and the rest of my life like I want, what do I have to do to get that? If I divorce him, would he, and all that kind of thing. She may have signed a prenup, actually. She probably did. So it comes to, did he get hit in the head then? And did he act weird? Or was it just people's imagination? You know how after someone dies mysteriously, everyone says, oh, I saw this or I saw that the day before. It could be that that's what happened with the Five of Swords. Well, that he got hit, and it was one of those things about, were his faculties compromised? Would he have gone up there and all that? The problem is this: he couldn't have hung himself the way that the tube was made. He couldn't have hung himself. Someone would have had to hurt him against the door. Now the problem is, no one heard him yell or scream, but he could have been given a drug that makes him sleepy before the concert. She could have given it to him, or the bodyguard, to ensure that by the time he got there, he would be too crazed out to fight back. It seems pretty harsh for her to kill him for money. So it could also be that she's jealous or something. But she could also be totally heartless. But this says passion. This says strength, whatever. I mean, obviously she wanted it to happen. And there's just a bunch of secrets. So, I guess I'll have to say that I think that the bodyguard and her were in on it. I can't tell why exactly they did it. But if he had all these plans and he over and over again got out of addiction and tried really hard every time, it meant that he was either constantly a fighter, or even though his moods were up and down, he was able to fight and live on. Now, when men get older, I know they get depressed because their body doesn't work the same and stuff, and they feel like they're kind of worthless. But any amount of ladies would have been with him, really. And I think that would make him feel better. So even though he was a person that could have been said to be depressive, and she might have used that to hurt him, why? It's just odd. Like, why would she do this? Why does she want it so bad? Why did she want him to die? And if we go by these cards, it says because of the money. She wanted him to stop using it. So even though this is an odd one, and I don't know if I can say 100% that I believe what I've said here, I'd say that 78% I'm pretty sure that she did it. That she did want to kill him, and she asked the bodyguard to help and paid him. And that Chris was murdered. And I hope that he gets his revenge, if that's the case. Because it just seems crazy that people do these things for money. But I also am one of those people that doesn't value money like most people. I think it's because I have some kind of weird faith about it, where if I need money, I'll just get it. But most people are not like that. But I also know that that is a gift that could be taken away from me at any time. I could lose that and become afraid for money too, just like anyone else. So I hope you all had a good time listening. Tell me what you think about Chris and Vicky and the bodyguard and the police, how they did the investigation, what the drugs were in his system, if you saw the pictures of the exercise tube, what you thought about it. So, I mean, I think that anyone who watches this loves Chris and cares about his family and is really proud of his legacy of music, and also just thinks he's really cool. But it's sad without him, and it makes sense that if someone killed him and murdered him, that they should be brought to justice. Talk to you later.